trips between the people coming from the EU to the UK and the UK to the EU. So like business trips and tourism, that will be able to happen freely. But it does also say on page 32 that free movement will end. One thing we don't know that's not addressed in the 98 pages of this white paper is what the actual immigration system will be between the UK and the EU after Brexit. It says that this will be addressed in another white paper and then in the immigration bill, and that will happen later after the parliamentary recess. So it says the immigration bill will bring EU migration under UK law, enabling the UK to set out its future immigration system in domestic legislation. So to find out what that actual post-Brexit immigration system will be with the EU, we've got to wait a bit longer.
Oh, that clock is ticking, as Michelle Barnett always says. Thank you, Joel. I think we might have time for one more before the end of the programme. But in the meantime, the chairs have stayed. Actually, the people in them have swapped over. Helen Harrison is here, who is chair of the Corby and East Northamptonshire Conservative Association, as is Paul Scully, who is the vice chair of the party. Welcome to both of you. Helen, first of all, the white paper is there. Can you support Theresa May's proposal?
As somebody who runs campaigning locally and deals with our activists on a daily basis, we're finding it very, very difficult. We've watched from afar, very quietly, seeing the process and the progress of the negotiations and this white paper coming forward. And of course, all the time we're being drip-fed what might be coming down the tracks, and looking at it more and more nervously. Is this really what we campaigned for? Is this what we stood for at the 2017 general election? And when the paper came out from Chequers last Friday, everybody said, this isn't what we were promised in the Lancaster House speech. And so on Saturday, the day after, we were there ready to campaign. So the Corby and East Northampton Association activists, as well as the Wellingborough, because we worked together. And we discussed it, and there was a great deal of unhappiness in the room. And at the end of all that, everyone said, well, we just really don't feel like we can go out and campaign today because we don't feel like we're delivering what we stood on election manifesto to do.
How are you going to convince Helen and her Tory colleagues, councillors in that area, to keep with the Conservative Party? You're losing people over this.
We read the detail on Friday ourselves. We've MPs have had a series of briefings over the last week. We've now got the white paper to get the detail, so we do need to explain it. I actually had a debate in Sutton during the referendum, which Helen came down to make the case for leave, and I campaigned to leave as well. And I take the Michael Gove approach that actually don't make perfection the enemy of good, because actually this does deliver on the referendum. We leave the customs union, we leave the single market, we stop paying money into Europe as a membership fee, we get rid of freedom of movement, and we do get rid of the ECJ.
Right, hang on a second. Are you convinced by that? No. Why not?
Absolutely not. I mean, even if you just read the 3-page report that came out from Chequers on that evening, it quite clearly says that we will be still, to a degree, under the jurisdiction of the ECJ.
Yeah, but there's a huge difference, because actually what it says, it has regard to it. And but make no mistake, if that was a US trade deal, do you seriously think that the UK would not have regard to the Supreme Court decisions? You're just basically going further than that.
This is going further than that, because if you look at the smaller print, the even smaller print, the ECJ will make a ruling. We will regard it and we will follow it. We're basically going to pass that on to the ECJ and then say yes.
It's not quite.
Well, hang on. Has the red line been kept to in terms of leaving the single market, if there is going to be a common rule book or the EU rule book guiding our trade in goods and agri-foods?
Well, I don't see how, because the common rule book will be the EU's rule book. It won't be one that's decided between the two countries. It will be the EU's rule book. We will be following EU laws. And if we decide that we want to diverge, well, basically that means the end of the deal. So we won't do it.
Well, and a restriction in market access, you're not sticking to the red line. You have eliminated it, really, if not turned it pink.
No, I think I've described it as a soft landing, not a soft Brexit, because actually what it does do is...
It is a soft Brexit, isn't it?
No, it's a soft landing, because what you're talking about is that you will still be able to do trade deals with the rest of the world.
Oh.
There will be certain...
The US has just said, Donald Trump has said, it's highly unlikely.
There will be certain things that we won't be able to bring in. We won't be able to bring in chlorinated chicken. We won't be able to bring in hormone-treated beef. And so is that really desirable to be bringing in? But actually, you know what? If we do decide down the line, and especially if we do get a decent deal with the States and Australia, and that starts to take over a little bit more of our proportion of GDP, then we can diverge from the EU, and that will mean changing the deal.
Do you feel betrayed by this?
White paper.
Well, I always back away from using very emotive words like that. I don't think they're very helpful, particularly when the country's so divided already. As an activist, and as somebody who's actually stood as a parliamentary candidate for the Conservative Party on that 2017 manifesto, I just want Theresa May to reread her Lancaster House speech and then look at what it is she's now proposing and look at her conscience and say, am I delivering what I promised then? And what she has promised so many times in the House of Commons, those red lines, I want her to look at that and then say, am I genuinely doing what I promised I would do? And if she can't in all conscience say that she is, I want her to go back to what she promised in the Lancaster House speech. And if she does, I'll be out there campaigning again next Saturday.
And if she doesn't?
If she doesn't, I'm going to find it quite difficult to get up on a Saturday morning to go out and campaign. Obviously, I want to campaign for my local MP. He lives in he's the MP for a marginal seat. I don't want him to lose his seat. But I will feel let down, let me put it that way.
And would you like her to stay as leader of the party if she can't deliver the proposal you want?
What I'm asking for her is for her to revisit the policy. I'm not looking for a change of leader. I'm not looking for some great big upheaval. I'm looking for a change in policy.
But you can't change the policy unless you change the leader, Claire, because this is the policy the government has put forward. She can't go back and toughen up the policy as you would see it.
No, I think the difficulty is that we do have to take a step back. I think it's admirable to not use words like betrayal, because I've tried to kind of ratchet it down a bit myself in relation to this. But it's also not just to do with what party members of the Tories feel. I mean, a lot more people voted, and I think it's selling those people out. So I'm now using the language. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, you've used it now.
But I want to just a little step back, because it feels to me as though what's happened is that instead of seeing Brexit as an opportunity, it was almost as though, and that's why I don't think it's just Theresa May. It's almost as though the whole of the people who are running the country, who happen to be the Tories, saw it as a damage limitation exercise. And what we've got now is some convoluted, repackaged version of a status quo that doesn't disrupt things too much. And I think in that sense, it misses the fantastic optimism and the way that people saw that vote as an opportunity to kickstart Britain again, to do something new. I mean,
Exactly.
goodness me, this is unambitious, box ticking. Well, are we doing this? It's turning us all into technocrats. I'm walking around with the thing. You've got Ian Dodge
my copy's outside.
You've sold people out.
No, I think
Sorry, I didn't
actually,
mean to the language. Forget
no,
that.
you talk about lack of ambition. Actually, I would agree with you, but I don't think it's the government's lack of ambition. I think it's Parliament's lack of ambition. Politicians from all sides
I agree.
over the last 2 years have actually put this country's ability to actually negotiate down. And you know what? Michel Barnier is reading all of this. So actually, this white paper also is couched in language that is there for the negotiation as well as just a piece.
And that's it, isn't it? That's the only way they could sell it.
And it may be changed by Parliament. Big votes on customs and trade Monday, Tuesday. She could lose. Could be changed by the 27 other countries. But it certainly doesn't match up to her speeches. That's unquestionably so.
My greatest fear is if this goes through, something like this, and it will be watered down from this.
Exactly.
There's no
This is
mistake.
the starting point.
This is the starting point. My fear is this, that what will happen is, instead of this being the beginning of us untangling ourselves from the EU, it wouldn't take much for somebody else to say, and a strong voice to say, you know, we haven't really left the EU, why don't we stay in?
We're still tangled up in it, aren't we?
Well, that can't happen. I mean, what we need to do is because we will have left on in March next year, and to actually get back in is quite involved. But look, we do need to communicate this really clearly, and actually what's in there, rather than some of the speculation and people looking about what may happen in a few months' time. Parliament will have a chance to vote on the deal, and then that will be the deal as negotiated.
Paul will be out of the institutions at the end of March, but that we're going to be in a weaker position. We will have less sovereignty because you will then have to follow the rules. As they say, you'll become a rule taker, not a rule maker.
Specifically on things that are moving across the border. But about everything else.
When you're in the institutions, you have a say. The Prime Minister, ministers, MEPs go.
A lot of these laws haven't actually changed since 1987.
I want to ask Paul Scully something else, because you are one of the vice chairs of the party. What did you think of this tweet from your Conservative colleague, Member of Parliament Michael Fabricant, who basically tweeted this photoshopped picture of a balloon version of the Mayor of London there in the left-hand corner, Sadiq Khan, juxtaposed underneath a pig. Sadiq Khan is an observant Muslim, and this will no doubt offend some Muslims because eating pork is forbidden. Do you think that was appropriate for a Member of Parliament?
No, I've heard from Michael, because he's apologised to colleagues because he was in a meeting, he saw something through and he didn't actually see exactly what was on it. So, that level of detail. So he's apologised to colleagues. He's chastised the person that's actually sent the thing to him in the first place, because who should have known better as well.
He tweeted it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So look,
so it's going to go unpunished.
It's totally inappropriate. The party will look at these things in the way that the party does.
How is it going to look at it?
In the way, we have. We're not going to stand for Islamophobia. If Michael sit there and deliberately did that, then clearly there would be a disciplinary issue. But there's every suggestion that wasn't deliberate. Hence, it was hastily deleted.
Right, but he did tweet it, so there is going to be a disciplinary procedure.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of how that will be working.
All right.